What's going on YouTube? It's Tej, back again with another video, and today we're talking about the Houston Texans in our season preview series. And before we start talking about the Texans, be sure to hit that like button. It really would help me and my channel out a ton. And if you're new around here, want to see more football content, just hit that big red subscribe button. And tell me what you think about the Texans down below in the comment section. How long do you think this rebuild takes? How many wins do you think they come away with this year? Who are some X factors, some young players you're looking forward to watch play this year, and some games and intriguing matchups the Texans have on their slate? Love to have your thoughts, and I respond to just about every comment. If you're new to this series, be sure to go back and check out our older videos, ones that are already up on the channel. Check out your favorite team, maybe some division rivals, or watch each and every video if you want to be the smartest, football fan in your clique, your friend group. So won't bother me. Let's talk about the Texans. We'll go through and run through, each of these sections and what I'm trying to go for with each bullet point. Win range, projected win total, and I kind of go position group by position group. 3 to 5 wins. I have them at 3 wins in my AFC South early record predictions. I think this is a team that, I kind of like how some of the pieces are falling together, but they're still missing a lot. And, Lovie Smith, that's kind of case in point. I don't even think they have their, long-term head coach in place. I don't foresee Houston wanting to hold on to Lovie Smith into a window where this team wants to be playoff and then maybe even Super Bowl competitive down the line. So this team is very much in its infancy, in my opinion, when it comes to this rebuild. But that being said, Brandon Cooks is still there. Laramie Tunsil gets an extension. He's a good young football player and plays at a very important position at left tackle. We'll have to see how this Davis Mills situation plays out. Marlon Mack, Dameon Pierce, kind of excited about the running back position there. The offensive line as a whole, we talked about Tunsil with Titus Howard. We'll hit on a little bit later. Add Kenya Green with the 15th overall pick. And, AJ Cann, Justin Britt, solid enough players who have played in the AFC South. They should be able to, be at least league average at their respective spots, right guard and center. And then you flip sides to the other side of the ball. And, again, pieces, young guys, Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo coming from the Rams, 300, somewhere between 300 and 400 snaps last year for the Rams. But looked good when we did get to see him. Obviously played on a team that won the Super Bowl. And then Jonathan Grenard, similar, right around 400 snaps last year. Pretty close to an elite pass rush grade per Pro Football Focus. So what does he do on a bigger sample? And then, there in the middle, does Christian Kirksey ever kind of put it together? He's never had, a big year yet in his career. Maybe this is the season, but also Christian Harris playing that Sam spot, 3rd round pick, like that value, and a guy who can blitz really well, but also pretty good athlete, very rangy, a little small, but you can live with that not considering he's a 3rd rounder. And then you get to the secondary, and we'll talk about Jalen Petre later. Intrigued by him. This is a team that's kind of looking for a safety, and that's why I put Jalen Petre on my X Factors list. But obviously, number 3 overall pick, Derek Stingley Jr., that is who they are looking to have, hopefully, one day become CB1. So, pieces in place, but at the same time, every inch is kind of a mile, and I think we got another couple of off seasons before the Texans are ready to start making their leap towards playoff contention. So, realistic goal, ID those building blocks. Who are those guys? I say this all the time, but I'm a Texans fan. Who's that player that's going to be my next jersey comp, right? Is it Derek Stingley Jr.? Obviously, you would hope so. He's a first-round pick. But Jalen Petre, Christian Harris, Nico Collins we'll talk about later. Maybe it is AJ Cann. Maybe it's Dameon Pierce. So who are these players that, let's say in 5 years when the Texans are like, hey, we should be a playoff team. Who on the team now will be on that roster in 5 years? That's always kind of the intriguing element here. And, especially if this team gets really, really good really quick. Nick Caserio does a great job in his role. Super Bowl contention, half decade or whenever we get there, who on this roster now will be a part of that roster? So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. This is going to be a team that loses a lot of football games. Sorry, Houston fans, but take it as big of a, embrace it as much as you can. Take it as a positive because you're going to be picking at the top of the first round next year, adding more talent, and, maybe that's, Will Anderson from Alabama. Maybe it's your franchise quarterback, depending on how Davis Mills plays out. More than likely, it's probably a quarterback. But we'll talk about Davis Mills here in just a moment. Actually, we'll talk on it here with the reach goal. So, last year, it's hard to see this as a positive. But that being said, Davis Mills struggled in a lot of ways, similarly to, Trevor Lawrence. We didn't see Trey Lance, but, Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. So you look at him and you're like, he's a 3rd round pick, but he struggled, but had some moments in some games like the first rounders did. So maybe there's something more to dig into. And he's going to have a full year. And again, I think that speaks to Houston understanding you don't need to turn this around in one offseason. We got time. There's no need to rush into any major decisions here. So let's see what Davis Mills looks like as a full-time starter for the entire season. Year 2, hopefully, he's acclimated to the game speed. And I wasn't necessarily the hugest Davis Mills fans, but I could understand why he had fans in his corner, right? Number, former 5-star recruit, played in an offense in Stanford that is not, same thing I've been talking about with Tanner McKee for next draft cycle, but not an offense that's going to have a quarterback putting up insane gaudy numbers, like a Mike Leach, air raid system. But that being said, solid when we got to see him. We just didn't see him a whole lot because of all the injuries, but clearly 5-star recruit. There's talent to tap in there. So, can he take that step forward? And can he raise, the floor of what he had last year? Because, his bad games last year were bad. I mean, they look like a rookie quarterback. They look like a third-round rookie quarterback. And then can we find some more of those big games? Like, in my lifetime, it feels like he's the only rookie quarterback who's really had his way against Bill Belichick. 300-plus yards, 3 tutties against the Pats last year. And it's like, what? I also remember, Bill Belichick blanking Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Herbert's rookie year. So, like, when you take that into consideration, there's something to be kind of excited about with Davis Mills. Now, not entirely sold. There's still work to be done, but also Pep Hamilton, former OC for Andrew Luck and the Colts. What does, him and Mills working together look like? So I'm really fascinated. So if he proves he's the guy, that's what allows this team to say, hey, we're going to be picking in the top 5. Let's go get Jalen Carter because we think he's the best football player in this draft. Or, let's go get Will Anderson because he's the best football player in this draft. Or, maybe this team exceeds expectations. They're in that 6-win spot. They're picking the top 10 still, and it's let's go get Akili Ringo from Georgia. Let's bolster that secondary even more. That's all really intriguing. So if Mills proves he can be the franchise guy, that just opens up so many doors for which this team can build strength upon, specifically in the draft, but also in free agency. But if the pick, if Mills looks like, a third-round pick and maybe, just a guy who's going to be in that, QB, 40 to 30 range where it's decent enough backup, low-end starter, okay, yeah, we got to get better there, and we can use that top of the first-round pick on, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, all those names you'll hear about through the next year. So he is a huge domino that will fall in one way or the other in this equation. But, that's reach goal really should be. If he hits, like I said, that opens up so many doors with how you can rebuild this team and add different young talent at different areas of the roster that's not quarterback. And I would just be so fascinated to see what that team building process then turns to. Because right now we're all thinking Houston's going to take a quarterback at the top of the first round next year. But what if Mills, sticks and earns that spot and maybe my win rate 3 to 5 wins? What if Davis Mills gets this team to, 6 and 11? I think that would, I don't want to say it's surprising or, like amazing year for the Texans, but it would exceed my expectations, clearly, as you can see the numbers on your screen. So that would be alluring, and that would be an attractive spot to find yourself in for Houston because, again, I'd love to add a Will Anderson to that defense. I'd love to add a Jalen Carter or whoever it may be. So that's definitely the reach goal in mind. I think that could be the biggest hit, most successful note they could add to their season is if Davis Mills proves that, hey, I should have been in that first-round conversation like everyone else, and I can be your franchise guy. That would be huge. Now, X factors, these are not superstars, right? Like Brandon Cooks is a good football player. Like I should count on him. Derek Stingley Jr., you could put him in here because he's a rookie, but draft from the top 3. You would hope that pays off, right? So X factors are not superstars. We're talking about guys who maybe based on where their expectations are coming into this season, if they exceed that, maybe that helps, Davis Mills have that much more success and the Texans to get above that 5-win mark in my win range. But also, Titus Howard, Nico Collins, Jalen Petrie, they struggle, then this team might be close to that 3-win mark. So hopefully I explained that pretty well. But Titus Howard, going into year 4, former first-round pick, kind of a surprising pick at that. I kind of liked what I saw last year at tackle, 6'5", right around 320 pounds, kind of has the body to shift out to play tackle, and that's a more valuable position. So if you're going to draft a guy in the first round, it kind of made sense to do that anyways. But that being said, if that play does carry over into this year and he looks solid at right tackle, boom, there's your bookend tackles. They're both former first-round picks, and they're both pretty young. So Tunsil's making a lot of money, and that's the downside of Howard does stick and look good at right tackle. You're going to have to shell out some cash, but this team, has a rookie quarterback, Davis Mills, and maybe drafting another one next year. So they'll have some money to be able to move around the rest of the roster. So this is big for him, but it's also big for the Texans as a team and solidifying that offensive line. Because like I said, Kenyon Green, you drafted 15th overall. I think he'll be really solid at guard, especially power run scheme. And then Tunsil, you're paying a lot of money to. You're expecting big things out of him. If Howard sticks, get an average season out of Justin Britt at center and AJ Cann at right guard. And then that offensive line's not looking too bad. It kind of paves the way for a Marlon Mack and a Dameon Pierce and helps get that much more out of Davis Mills. So that would go a long way to solidifying the potential future of that offensive line. And then Nico Collins was a guy that I kind of liked. He was one of those guys where he was like a wide receiver where if I can get him on day 2, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Now, you look at some of the trade value analysis of the Texans moving up to select Nico Collins, and it ends up being, a little lopsided there, and the Seahawks got a pretty good bargain out of that trade. But that being said, especially with John Mechie, speedy recovery there. That is such a blow to him, his young career. Couldn't imagine. But being diagnosed with leukemia, hopefully it's a speedy recovery and we'll get to see him on the field pretty quick. But that opens up a pretty sizable target share that I think might go right to Nico Collins. Now there's obviously some other receivers here in the mix, and Chris Conley's still there, so maybe he's sticking on the outside. But why would you not, after you gave up all those draft picks, all those assets, to be able to go get Nico Collins? Clearly you liked him. And he's a different type of vertical threat than a Brandon Cooks, who wins with speed. Collins has some speed, but also has that size and that ability to go win at the catch point. I want to see that this year. I want to see 50-50 balls from Davis Mills connect with Nico Collins. And you add another outside wide receiver to this mix, and then in a year's time, John Mechie III comes back, hopefully healthy, and can stick into that slot role where I think he would have a ton of success. Then you're looking at I don't want to say complete, unbelievable wide receiver room, but a solid foundation in which you can add a fourth wideout, or if there's a superstar who becomes available, or there's a rookie wide receiver you think would be that superstar guy, you add that, and then it takes that wide receiver room to the next level. So I think if Collins hits here in year 2 with Brandon Cooks and some of the other veterans they have, it'll be a solid, stable group. And again, it's all about seeing what Davis Mills can do this year. So Collins is a big part of that equation. And then switching over to the defense, Jalen Petrie. So, 37th overall pick in a really good safety class, right? Like, he's drafted before Jaquan Brisker, who I liked out of Penn State. He's taken 5 selections after Lewis Seen, who was my number 2 safety in this past draft class. He was drafted in the first round by the Vikings. So you got to put him in the middle there of this really good safety class, top of the second round. It's a team that just lost Justin Reed. And where that gets interesting is you look at our lads, and right now Jalen Petrie is listed as a free safety. I kind of saw him as that, we're seeing a whole lot more of these types of guys, but that strong safety nickel corner hybrid, that to me was exactly what Jalen Petrie was coming out of Baylor. So what is he doing? He's going to be playing a lot of the nickel and in that box safety spot. But, I think Justin Reed, some of his better years came as a true free safety, so maybe that's trying to put one-on-one together on our lads. But I really do hope he is playing that strong safety spot. And while you may not get the turnovers he creates on the back end, still a guy with a nose for the football, and especially his man coverage ability, it is more than what you would expect out of an average safety. So I'd love to be able to see Lovie Smith dial up some blitzes, and specifically for Christian Harris. So, kind of make him my second tier X factor here. And we've talked about Jonathan Grenard and Okoronkwo already, but they were on my breakout candidates list too. So I've already talked to Nazem there about those guys. That's why I didn't want to put them on this list. But if Christian Harris can be a factor when it comes to blitzing, and you can trust Jalen Petrie to cover slot wide receivers in man-to-man coverage, that allows you to get more creative, and it kind of opens up the avenues of dialing up pressure, trying to generate turnovers, and getting the ball back in the hands of Davis Mills. So there's all kind of, in a lot of ways, it's coming back to Davis Mills. I don't really mean for that, but Jalen Petrie was a really good player, and to get him at 37, I think he was better than the 37th overall player in this draft. Safety value definitely diminishes where he should go. But that being said, I think they could have a guy that could be on that playoff contending roster in 5 years, or that Super Bowl window in 7 years, whatever it ends up being. So I think that was a really solid selection, good young player. I don't normally like putting rookies on here, but this is a team that needs a safety really bad. I mean, MJ Stewart, I guess, is fine, but if we're scrapping that deep, then yeah, you're going to need somebody better there. And I think Petrie could be exactly the stimulus and talent they need on the back end. So let's talk about some games to watch, and we'll get you out of here. Chicago Bears week 3, just a winnable game. 2 teams I would put in, what I call the bottom barrel, those last 8 teams in my power rankings. So winnable game in that sense, but also, you're talking about a Bears secondary where, outside of Justin Fields, that's the thing on the roster that I'm kind of intrigued by and I like. Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, we were just talking about. Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson, those are some nice corners fitting in with the Matt Eberflus defense. DC Allen Williams. So how does what does Nico Collins look like in this game, right? Can this be a game where he creates big plays? What does Brandon Cooks do to get the most out of these opportunities? And he's going to get a ton of targets, but what does that chemistry kind of develop into? What does the production between Mills and Cooks look like, especially against a good secondary in Chicago, which I think will be a pretty good unit there. Then week 9 against the Philadelphia Eagles. This is not really an even matchup when it comes to the teams on paper, but it's Thursday Night Football, so it's the lone primetime game that's on the schedule right now. And, naturally that means a lot more eyes are going to be on the Texans, which anytime you can do that as a team that's kind of punching upwards against the Eagles, that's an opportunity to kind of catch some eyes, showcase, hey, this is where we are in the rebuild. Maybe it's going a little quicker than we expected, or hey, look at this young player, he's going to be a part of it. So it's always interesting to see, how in these big stages, different players handle those moments and how that maybe changes the rhetoric around a team. So I think the Eagles are better, but the chance to see the Texans on primetime and, primetime games always find a way to be pretty close, it feels like. So can the Texans hang around with the Eagles? I think that would say a lot about this team's fight and, maybe expedited process in this rebuild. And then week 13 against the Browns. And, again, if it's Deshaun Watson, this is definitely punching upwards. But, the NFL appeals that suspension. At the time of this recording, we haven't gotten the official, verdict on what the appeal is going to lead to. But the NFL and Roger Goodell once a year, it feels like this appeal is not going to be anything less than that. So, Houston against a Cleveland team led by Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett. Question marks there. If it's Jimmy G, it's still definitely punching upwards, but Jacoby Brissett makes it a little bit more even playing field. But really, what I want to see here is Laramie Tunsil against Myles Garrett. That's a must-see TV for me. And Garrett's going to move around, so how does Titus Howard hold himself in those reps? But also Derek Stingley Jr. against Amari Cooper. The Browns are not a team with a whole lot of depth at wide receiver, so if DSJ locks up Amari Cooper, one, that just would say a ton about Derek Stingley Jr. That would be a huge feather in his cap and would showcase that, superstar corner talent and potential that he has. But it would also open up the door for the Texans to kind of hang around, right? Like, especially if it is a Jimmy Garoppolo or Jacoby Brissett. You take away Amari Cooper, and you're asking guys like Anthony Schwartz to beat you, Donovan Peoples-Jones, okay, yeah, I'll take my odds there. So I'll take my chances there. And then, I like that Browns secondary fair out. So this is another one of those games, kind of like the Bears, where it's like, what can Brandon Cooks make happen? What does Nico Collins do in this game? Chris Conley, whoever it ends up being, who can make some big plays there as a pass catcher? But again, also that offensive tackle duo against Myles Garrett. That could say a lot about, how Titus Howard, that year 4 is playing out for him. But also, Laramie Tunsil, is he truly a franchise left tackle? I gave him that extension. Can he play like a guy who can slow down Myles Garrett? I'd love to see that for the Texans. But that is going to do it for my Houston season preview video. Tell me what you think about the Texans down below in the comment section. How many wins do you think they come away with? Who are some X factors, not superstars, but X factors in this roster? And some games you're looking forward to watching them play this year. Love to have your thoughts, and I respond to just about every comment. Hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. It really would help me out a ton. And if you're new around here, want to help us get to 1,000 subscribers, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.